Hi,
Hi, hi, good evening.
good evening.
Okay, so uh what is our today's schedule?
Um, let's rehearse our presentation.
Yeah, we just
Uh
practice.
okay. Uh and so now I share my screen for
Yeah,
the PPT. Okay.
yeah.
Wait a minute. Uh the only uh the holder can share the screen. I cannot share the screen.
Oh my
So
God.
maybe only Frida share the screen.
Okay, maybe I set you as the
Okay,
host.
okay,
Oh, okay, you,
okay,
you have been the host.
Yeah.
okay. And I have the success. Uh, can you see the screen?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, of course.
Uh, okay, let's begin.
Okay. Um, Hello
Uh,
everyone. We are Group A, and today, the article is Western Professional Ethics Challenged by Foreign Acquisitions, German Managers' Patterns of Interpretation Surrounding Chinese and Indian Investors. And next slide. And this is our contents. Next. First, I will introduce the article. The article shows that first the title. The title shows that it is a cross-disciplinary topic, and which is related to both culture and economy, and that's why we are interested in this article. And about the author, Martina Fontes. She was a professor from University of Cologne, Department of Economy and Social Geography. And her research focuses on transnational companies, labor geography, ethnics, emerging economies, and the European Union. And I have to mention that she was a German, and so she may be German-centric in the later discussion, and we should be mindful of this potential bias in the article. And next, in terms of background, the article provides an overview of the challenges faced by the German managers in interpreting their new business partners from China and India. And that is, in times of globalization, cross-border acquisitions of company frequently occur. These acquisitions may lead to trouble to both sides. Therefore, it also highlights the importance of cross-cultural communication and understanding in the context of mergers and acquisitions. So she raised the research question: how do German managers interpret their new business partners from China and India after the acquisition of the company by foreign investors? And how do these interpretations reflect the Western professional ethics? By answering the question, the author wants to provide insights into the interpretations and behaviors of German managers in cross-border acquisitions, and shedding light on the influence of social cultural patterns and professional ethics in the international business relations. Then let's invite Sia to talk about the methodology of this article.
okay, thanks, Frida. My name is Sia, and I'm going to give you a brief introduction to the methodology part. This study used a methodology called structural hermeneutics based on interviews to review the patterns of interpretation of German managers of their foreign counterparts. Here, I would like to provide some explanation for the concept of structural hermeneutics. It centers upon the hidden structural logics of argumentation. The method of focus on the use of language in speech acts, rather than reconstructing the facts and the contents referred to, in this case by an interviewee. It identifies implicit socio-cultural backstage rules. The research also draws on speech acts, language, and semantics. The subjects of underlying patterns of interpretation is frequently addressed in interdisciplinary research, just like this article involves interdisciplinary research in economic and geography. And the specific research design is based on semi-structured, mostly narrative expert interviewees with a flexible guideline that allowed them to introduce their own topics as narratives. It did not include the interviews with the international investors themselves, but rather with German managers. The authors focused on interviews in complete majority-owned acquisitions of medium-sized and large companies in Germany. The research took place between 2010 and 2014 to calibrate individual insights with further cases, resulting in 14 interviews being conducted and analyzed. And these interviews include 8 for Chinese India investors and 6 for Western investments. In 2016, the companies considered were analyzed in a follow-up survey to deepen the insights from the analysis of the initial post-merger process. Okay, the above is the summary of the methodology part. Next, my teammate Lauren will introduce the discussion and the conclusion parts.
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Lauren, and I'm going to like you guys to say how German managers view their international investors, including private equity from the USA, Canada, Europe, and as well as investors from China and India. It's a story of welcome, distance, and its implications for globalization. Initially, German managers are open to foreign partnerships. This is part of their Western professional ethics, a cosmopolitan openness to foreign business. They eagerly embraced investors from China, Indian, and Western private equity because they bring money and future opportunity for growth. Next slide. But here's the twist. As time goes on, that initial welcome turns into distance, especially in the post-merger stage. German managers feel that their Chinese and Indian counterparts are not playing by the same rules. It all comes down to 3 factors: leadership, administration, and future strategy. Chinese and Indian investors seem to have complex bureaucratic hierarchies, which makes German managers feel puzzled. Their leadership appears to rely on political power rather than competence, given some Chinese investors are staying-old enterprises. On the other hand, private equity investors stick to clear and defined leadership principles. In terms of administration, Chinese and Indian investors make things complex, no standard procedures, unclear reporting, and a strong focus on details without clear future plans. Meanwhile, private equity investors acquire different. They are efficient, they use key performance indicators and clear management plans. And looking ahead, predictability is important. Private equity investors have a clear strategy, while Chinese and Indian investors seem uncertain with their wait and see approach. So these gaps makes German managers to say Chinese and Indian investors as beginners who need to learn Western management knowledge. However, they respect private equity investors from West as role models and are very eager to learn from them. So to sum it up, this article argues that for the next page, please. This article argues that for cross-border takeovers to succeed, we must let go of this us versus them mentality. It can harm efficiency and competitiveness of a company. This study also points out the lack of cross-cultural learning and commitment within these global companies, and the solution is to be more sensitive and reflective. We need to embrace and learn from different cultural differences to foster a cosmopolitan mindset and a global perspective. Next, let's welcome my groupmate Frida to give a critique about the literature review.
Okay, my first point is the relevance. This article provides a good review of the relevant literature in the economic geography and the management studies. The source of the literature review in this article are current. Many of them are published within the last 5 to 10 years. Specifically, the author had went through the articles related to the topic. She mentioned the literature from two aspects, that is, socio-cultural patterns and Western professional ethics. These concepts may seem awkward. It is actually a macro perspective and a micro perspective of this topic. In terms of cultural, they also use theories to support the arguments under the investigation. For example, Chrysostom concluded that after the early honeymoon period, othering becomes the dominant pattern of the interpretation. And this is a very good cultural phenomenon which can explain the things that the author wants to state in the later discussion. And in terms of the professional ethics, the author also shows relevant theories and examples. For example, the cosmopolitanism, it is focused on the different forms of the society and on challenges for persons shifting from one form to another. And this can well support his idea. Next slide. The second point is, as I have mentioned, the author is a German, and she wrote the whole article to examine the behavior of the German managers. But what about their counterpart? In an acquisition of company, the counterpart of German managers is the Chinese and Indian investors. Here is the problem. The literature review did not mention a single word about the Chinese and Indian investors. Why the author chose China and India as a study object, and why not Japan or South Korea? What is the characteristic of China and Indian investors? The author should state those reasons. And the related article actually is accessible. Here are listed two on the PPT. For example, the Chinese acquisitions abroad, are they different? And the impact of organizational cultural differences on mergers and acquisitions performance. All these articles can be strong evidence for the article. So in this part, the comprehensiveness of the literature review is unconvincing. And last, I will talk about the research gap. The strength of the research gap is that the author draws the connection between the different bodies of literature and clearly explains the research gap. For example, it mentioned that how managers of companies interpret their international counterparts in globalizing enterprise is an underexplored issue. And the similar conclusion exists in the literature review part, so it is clear that there is an research gap. However, there is a limitation. In order to be comprehensive and complete in concluding those current literature, the content may be too wild and it concludes something irrelevant. For example, in order to examine the current work of the economic geographer, the paper examines the context of two disclosures with too many cited articles and examples. You can see here in the picture all the lines of the content is somehow redundant. And in this part also can make it more simplified. Similar to this similar to this picture, some content of the literature may be pulled randomly and may not reflect the subject of this study. And that's all for the literature review. And then Sia will discuss the critique of the methodology.
Okay, thanks, Frida. And the methodology was a qualitative with 14 interviews, although the authors conducted a follow-up survey later to enhance the understanding of the initial post-merger process analysis. The number of German managers interviewed was limited. I think overall it's an interesting and effective methodology, because the authors used a methodology of structural hermeneutics to explain an interdisciplinary phenomenon, as I said before. Through searching, I have found several academic literatures on the application of structural hermeneutics, most of which are in the context of cultural sociology. For example, Norton 2011 examines a TV program to analyze partisan by using structural hermeneutics. Also, in 2003, Alexander exposes myths and narratives in a series of empirical studies by using structural hermeneutics. But the application of interdisciplinary explanations in the business environment is very rare. Therefore, this method effectively supplements how German managers interpret their role cognition in the era of globalization and their interpretation of international business partners from the perspective of economic geography. However, there were two major limitations that I thought of. The first one is the procedure of structural hermeneutics is extremely elaborate and the concept is abstract. The authors did not provide a clear and detailed explanation on how this method was specifically applied to those interviewees. Although they gave the definition of structural hermeneutics, but how this method was measured in this specific experiment was vague and unclear in this paper. In other words, as a reader, I am not sure how this methodology was applied in the process of 14 German managers describing their peers in the merger process. For example, the research mentioned that prominently and early in the interviewees, all interviewees stressed that the investors were welcome. It is the general conclusion, but how to infer these conclusions through this so-called structural hermeneutics methodology was not mentioned by the authors. The other limitation is when using this methodology, the authors arbitrarily characterize Chinese and Indian acquirers as culturally similar investors, while comparing other Western private equity investors headquartered in the United States, Canada, and Europe as another major category. The authors mentioned more than once in the article, like administration in the case of Chinese and India takeovers was often described as laborious, or something like German managers regard Chinese and Indian investors as inexperienced counterparts. It seems that both the authors and those German managers have some potential bias towards these two countries, namely a reluctance to distinguish their specific differences. In fact, there are significant cultural differences between China and India, and indiscriminately grouping these two countries into the same category may lead to readers' biases in understanding the image of Chinese or Indian investors. Correspondingly, classifying some of the surveyed investors from Western countries into the same category can also affect the accuracy of the conclusion. Okay, this is my critique of the methodology part. Next, my teammate Lauren will further give her view of the argument of this paper.
Thanks, Sarah, for critique the methodology part. And later, let's talk about the merit and weakness of this article in terms of quality of argument. First, in terms of its merit, this article sheds light on a relatively unexplored aspect. It is very important for us to understand how superior quoted Western managers perceive and navigate these cultural gaps when dealing with Chinese and Indian counterparts whom they deemed as inexperienced and beginners. It's important to know that these cultures are often seen, yeah. However, despite this interesting perspective, this article has been cited only 13 times according to Google Scholar. We assume that this limited site recognition could be partly due to Western scholars' discomfort with the diminishing of their Western superiority with the rise of emerging economies like China and India. Next slide, please. But let's take a closer look at some of this article's shortcomings. First, it tends to generalize Chinese and Indian business cultures without acknowledging their unique differences. Yeah, Chinese and Indian business culture is different, right? For China emphasizes a strict hierarchy structure with respect for authority, while India is more open to debate and they like direct communication. These distinctions are crucial, and this article doesn't address them adequately. Secondly, but there is a lack of clarity in this article regarding the ownership of Chinese companies. The important question is, are they state-owned or private? This is a critical distinction as it can significantly impact leadership styles and administration styles and how they interact with foreign partners. State-owned enterprises tend to be more bureaucratic and less transparent than private companies. I think this article could benefit from a more nuanced exploration of these cultural and ownership differences. Next slide, please. Third, this study only focuses on companies in manufacturing industry. I think this limited focus can limit the representativeness of this finding. It's important to consider other industries such as high-tech, IT, and financial services, etc. Those different companies from different industries may have distinct experiences and interpretations when dealing with cultural differences. So I think they only focus on German managers may not capture the diversity of experiences among other Western managers in merger and acquisition situation. So let's think about this question. Can China National Patrimony 中石油 represent all Chinese companies like Tengxun, Alibaba? Yeah, it cannot. So that's the limited representativeness of this article. In conclusion, even though this article offers valuable insights, it's important to critically assess its limitations. As mentioned before, we should keep in mind the need for a more comprehensive understanding of cultural differences and the difference of ownership structure and the diversity of industries, so we can better navigate the challenges and opportunities that arise in cross-border mergers and acquisitions. That brings us to the end of our presentation. We'll now be very happy to answer any questions. Yeah.
Okay.
So and
fine.
we finish our presentation rehearsal.
Yeah, but there's a problem. We have run out of our time.
Yeah.
It's almost half an hour.
I think for my critique part, I used just 4.30 minutes.
Yes.
So maybe you could shorten your your words.
Yeah.
I think in the first summary, should maybe say a little bit of time.
I will try to shorten it.
Yeah, and I
also,
need to shorten my time too.
Yeah.
Maybe you can speed up your speed up.
Yeah.
Talk quickly.
Yes. Also, in the beginning, maybe Frida can make a short introduction about our names or who is who, and okay. I think the content is very informative, and but we should control the time that we talks within 24 minutes.
Yeah.
We have.
I think we can maybe cut something because I don't think speed up is a good action when we present. Maybe the audience will not understand what we are saying.
So which part can we to cut?
I will cut my first part.
Okay.
Maybe Lauren should try to cut both the parts.
I think in my last part, do guys recall my time for the last part, critic part? I think it's around 5 minutes, but in the first part, in the summary in my summary part, I should cut a little bit. Yeah.
Okay. Maybe we try again later. Yeah.
Yes.
Tomorrow we can do it again, or in Friday we can meet in person, find a study room class. Or or classroom, and we can do rehearsal again.
Okay.
Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah.
So
about the PPT. Maybe some words are too small, I think. Maybe we should make it as the same size, maybe.
Yeah, do you use what size?
Okay, I made some later to finalize the PPT for the size of the characteristics.
Yeah, and maybe the title of everyone's part should be the
Uniform.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And some main points we can highlight to catch the audience attention, to emphasize the main points.
Okay. So we make some revise to our own part, and we gather it together later.
Okay.
Yeah.
And any problem with the contents or the way of present?
I think since we discussed several times before, and I think the content it's okay, and it can maintain those main points to no matter in the summary or the critique. I think the content is okay.
So we just need to control our time.
Yeah.
Yes, and delete those not that necessary parts.
Yeah. I think maybe we can add something to attract the audience. Maybe some picture or something like that.
Yeah, I think I can add some pictures in my critic part. Yeah.
Just try to make them focus on our presentation. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
and I can also ask them questions.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a good idea.
Yeah, I don't need them to answer, but just I need to ask to catch their attention. Yeah. So let's work on our script. Try hard to be fluent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Practice.
Yeah, practice.
Yes, practice makes perfect.
Yeah.
Yes, we should practice more.
Yeah.
And then when make this presentation, we should try our best to make eye contact with the audience.
Yeah.
So that they can follow my steps to look at my look at what I am saying.
Yeah, try to make eye contact with everyone.
Yes.
How about the question and answer? Maybe we can raise some question for each other so that we can prepare for that part.
You mean we prepare some questions in ahead ourselves?
Maybe
So
or
in case, yeah.
Yeah, maybe we can practice it in Friday, before the class.
Yeah, since we are the second group to present, and we can arrive at the classroom earlier to practice this part.
Okay.
Okay. I think we are running out of time. We still have 5 minutes, and the meeting will close.
Okay.
Yeah, I have a question.
Oh, yeah.
We are the second group, and the first group, when they finished their presentation, they will leave.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah. So we only have three
Six.
people as audience and
Six.
teacher. Six. Oh, yeah.
The audience is the same to us and to the last group. The sixth audience is fixed.
Yeah. So 6 people. Yeah, it's easy to make eye
But I
contact.
think
You just
maybe
look at
after they having listened the former group, they might get tired, then
Yes.
they maybe cannot focus on our presentation well. So we should try to catch their interest to
Yeah.
yeah.
Tell stories.
Maybe.
And we can speak louder
Oh, yeah.
in the classroom. Yes. So
I think for 3 minutes we already exceed the limit of half an hour. We can finish this earlier.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we have to end the meeting now.
how to end the meeting?
Yeah, okay. You can just leave and try to finish the recording.
And the recording will automatically
And
maybe.
Okay. Bye bye.
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 See you Friday.